Tonight, major crime unit. Police are back at a home on 107th Avenue. Prison death. An inmate who killed a Dawson Creek man is dead. And legendary career. Ken Johnson hangs up his microphone in Fort Nelson. Well, good evening and thank you for joining us. And we begin tonight with well-known house in Dawson Creek once again being secured by police. Investigators back at the residence owned by Aaron Linkletter before he passed away. This was the scene Wednesday afternoon on 107th Avenue in Dawson Creek. Police holding the property until the North District Major Crime Unit arrives from Prince George. Neighbors telling CJDC-TV News that police were going door to door this morning asking if anyone heard or may have seen something. Linkletter died earlier this month inside the home, but his death is not considered to be suspicious. A source close to the Linkletter said they called police. They said there have been a number of attempts to try and break into the home since he passed away. It's not clear at this point if that's the sole reason for major crimes to make their way back to Dawson Creek. Linkletter was questioned but not charged in the connection with the death of Emily Ogden earlier this year. He was also the victim of an alleged violent home invasion in February of 2024. Ogden, Adam Dar, and a minor were arrested by police in connection with the home invasion that sent Linkletter to hospital. Neighbors saying in the past few weeks the house has been quiet, with vehicles no longer coming to and from the residence at all hours of the day. We'll have more on the latest investigation as information becomes available. A 74-year-old inmate who killed his first victim in Dawson Creek in 1981 before fleeing Canada and avoiding justice for more than 30 years has died in a federal prison in Abbotsford. Thomas Anthony McDonald died Friday at the Pacific Institution of apparent natural causes. The 1981 killing took place on the outskirts of Dawson Creek in the early morning hours of September the 26th. Earlier that night, McDonald had been drinking at the Windsor Hotel. He asked Marilyn McClarty to dance. Her husband, Earl Jones, took offense and slapped McDonald in front of other bar patrons. Jones and McClarty left the bar shortly after the incident and began driving home. McDonald followed them, and as the couple was turning at an intersection, he fired a round from a rifle which killed Jones. He left for the United States the next day. McDonald continued to live in the U.S. until 2002. He went to England, where he committed a second homicide. He killed his roommate during a fight just weeks after arriving in Britain. He returned to Canada and was charged with first-degree murder in the Dawson Creek case. The trial judge, however, acquitted him, convicting him instead of the lesser offense of manslaughter. At the time of his death, McDonald was serving an indeterminate sentence after being designated a dangerous offender back in 2015. BC's wildfire season appears to be slowing as the fire just west of Taylor is now under control, and the number of active wildfires across the rest of the province continues to fall. In the Caribou, the regional district there has given the all clear for residents to return home due to the Titsy Lake wildfire. That fire is burning 60 kilometers northeast of Anaheim Lake. This comes after evacuation orders for two other fires at Beef Trail Creek and Dusty Lake were also lifted last week. The number of active fires in the province has fallen to about 115, with only 10 now listed as burning out of control. Well, mayors and councillors from across the province, including Fort St. John and Dawson Creek, are in the provincial capital this week for the annual Union of BC Municipalities Conference. Today, they took to the steps of the legislature with a common voice calling on the province and federal governments to prioritize public safety in their communities. CTV's Brendan Strain reports.
It's a plea for help from all corners of the province.
There are a lot of gaps in service provisions and availability in social services.
From Victoria to Prince George.
The level of disorder is proving to be an enormous challenge for local governments to manage.
To Kelowna.
People are frustrated, and quite frankly, they are exhausted.
Teaming up with the Save Our Streets Coalition, 50 mayors and councillors took to the front steps of the BC legislature, demanding the province and federal government do more to combat crime in communities throughout BC.
How do we care for the people who are on our streets committing lots of crime that are sick?
On the provincial side, the group is calling for more supports for those individuals dealing with mental illness and addiction issues in order to get them off the streets with the help they desperately need. On the federal side, These municipal politicians are calling for bail reform to stop what is being called a catch and release policy, allowing offenders to re-offend again and again.
This is not the British Columbia that our citizens deserve.
One of those voices demanding change is the mayor of Nanaimo.
Nobody is happy. The people in the streets aren't happy. The citizens aren't happy. The business owners aren't happy. Nobody's happy.
I hear the frustrations and I share these frustrations.
Responding to the criticism of her ministry, the Solicitor General and Minister of Public Safety defended the progress the province has already made.
Recently, we saw the release of Statistics Canada's Crime Severity Index, which showed BC had the largest drop in crime severity across the country of 11%.
The minister admits there is more work to be done and says the provincial government is committed to seeing that work through.
So for heaven's sakes, get on with it.
These mayors say their communities need a faster response and some serious investments by higher levels of government when it comes to community safety, crime and disorder. Brendan Strain, CTV News, Victoria.
The union representing BC Public Service Workers says 25 liquor stores across the province are now behind picket lines. The latest escalation in the labor dispute comes days after the BC General Employees Union began picketing 3 liquor and cannabis distribution warehouses across the province. The union says more than 600 workers at liquor stores have walked off the job in an effort to push the province back to the negotiating table. It says the locations were chosen because of their significant contribution to government revenue. Liquor stores in Fort St. John and Dawson Creek have not been affected by today's move. The Supreme Court of Canada has delayed the destruction of hundreds of ostriches at a BC farm. The cull will remain on hold until the High Court considers an application for leave to appeal. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency has been on the farm for days, preparing for the cull of nearly 400 birds. The CFIA will remain there maintaining custody of the ostriches until the ruling is made. Tensions have been mounting at the farm. Overnight, a hay wall was set on fire. A 25-year-old climate activist from Victoria is the new leader of the BC Green Party. The party announcing Emily Lowen won the leadership race with more than 3,000 votes. Lowen doesn't have a seat in the BC legislature, but she says she plans to run in the next viable by-election or next general election. Former leader Sonia Furstenau lost her bid for re-election in last year's provincial election. She stepped down from the post in January. The Prime Minister has been the victim of an alleged privacy breach by an employee of Canada's largest bank. The RCMP have charged a 23-year-old man with 4 charges, including fraud and identity theft. CTV's Abigail Beeman has the details.
It all started in July with a tip-off complaint from RBC to the Mounties. Police accused then bank employee Ibrahim El Hakim of accessing, among other things, Prime Minister Mark Carney's personal data. The 23-year-old faces 4 charges: fraud over $5,000, unauthorized use of computer, identity theft, and trafficking in identity information. RCMP won't say if they believe the suspect is linked to organized crime.
This is the Prime Minister's financial information, and what I gather from this is that this is clearly information that could be potentially leveraged by what we call a threat actor.
The case is being handled by the RCMP's Integrated National Security Enforcement Team, but they note there is no threat to the Prime Minister's safety or national security. For its part, RBC says it independently identified unauthorized system access, took immediate action to engage authorities, and El Hakim is no longer employed at the bank. The bank didn't answer CTV News questions about whether high-profile client accounts are given more protection than average Canadians.
It applies to all Canadians, so it just reminds everyone that, privacy and having system to prevent, fraudulent access to anyone's file is something that we should all be concerned about.
I'm not aware of those details, actually. Yeah, but that would worry me. Yeah.
The suspect has another court appearance here in Ottawa next week. Abigail Beeman, CTV News, Ottawa.
An investigation into TikTok says the social media app has been collecting sensitive data from Canadian children.
There's certain things people consent to, but there's certain things that we find just goes too far, and that's the issue of under 13 children. We just found that for that, even with consent, we find that that's not appropriate.
The federal investigation found TikTok was gathering data on who the users were and their spending power. to decide what content to feed back to them. The privacy commissioner says TikTok has now agreed to enhance its age verification system in order to keep underage users off the platform. We're hearing from Health Canada for the first time over claims made by Donald Trump about the pain medication Tylenol. The agency is contradicting his statements earlier this week. Health Canada says there is no conclusive evidence that using acetaminophen as directed during pregnancy causes autism or other neurodevelopmental disorders. In fact, the health agency goes on to say it's the recommended treatment of pain and fever for pregnancy. Acetaminophen is the generic name for Tylenol. Health Canada says not treating fever and pain in pregnant women can pose risks to the unborn child. Trump made the unproven claims about the drug at a news conference earlier this week. And turning to the latest from the UN General Assembly, Ukraine's president addressed the body today, calling for continued support for his country's defense against Russia. It comes one day after U.S. President Donald Trump's remarkable U-turn. The American president now saying he believes Ukraine could win back all of its lost territory. CTV's Judy Trin reports from New York.
We are now living through the most destructive arms race in human history.
Even as Ukraine's president warned about the escalating dangers of unchecked AI-controlled drones, Vladimir Zelensky said the less advanced version of the weapons was enabling his country to hold back Moscow's might.
Ukraine doesn't have the big fat missiles dictators love to show off in parades, but we do have drones that can fly up to 2,000-3,000 kilometers.
Zelensky cited success in destroying Russian assets in the Black Sea and key infrastructure. His comments come as the American president takes a harsher tone toward the Kremlin. In the past week, Russian drones and fighter jets have flown into the airspace of Poland and Estonia, NATO members.
Do you think that NATO countries should shoot down Russian aircraft if they enter their airspace?
Yes, I do.
After Tuesday's face-to-face, Donald Trump made a remarkable U-turn. He posted on social media that after getting to understand the Ukraine-Russia military economic situation, he now believes Ukraine can win back all of its territory. Previously, Trump had said ending the war would require Ukraine giving up territory it had lost. The prime minister said that Vladimir Putin had proven he could not be trusted.
The president, however, has made very sincere and multiple efforts to try to establish peace. He has used his relationship, longstanding relationship with President Putin in those efforts to try to establish peace. And Putin has failed on every occasion, every opportunity.
Trump has called on nations to put secondary sanctions on countries that buy Russian oil. Prime Minister Mark Carney said G7 countries are discussing such economic measures to put additional pressure on Putin to end the war. Judy Trin, CTV News, New York.
All right, please do stay tuned. Noah will be right back after the break with a look at weather.